Hi everybody, thanks for joining me for this short tutorial on using our newly redesigned Individualized Weekly Distance Learning Plan. In this recording, I'm going to give you a quick run through of this new version, and I know you are thinking another revision, something new to learn to navigate. A few things to know about the why we've made some of the revisions I'm going to show you include we had some really great feedback about what was working, what was too much, and some ideas for simplifying things from some of you. And we're really listening to that feedback and wanting to incorporate those ideas before we get too deep into this. We also had some feedback from parents about how confusing it was for some of them to receive two things, a weekly calendar and then the more individualized plan. And we wanted to be responsive to that. We were also faced with some new information from CDE on how they plan to start auditing attendance starting September 1st. This included requiring a breakdown of synchronous versus asynchronous activities per day, and we hadn't built that in, so we needed to address that. We really wanted to also take away some of the burden of doing calculations. And knew that we could accomplish that if we put everything into one spreadsheet, which would also address some of those other things I just mentioned. I think you'll see that that will help simplify some of the tasks that you've been needing to do in order to complete that accountability log, and hopefully that makes it simpler for you. One thing that I do need to let you know is that the state is using September 1st as the first day they will hold us accountable to the guidelines they set out for distance learning. Those guidelines, if you remember, include the minimum number of hours each day students are expected to participate in instructional activities, our need to keep records on their engagement or whether they participate in or complete activities in our plans, as well as to document how much instruction was provided synchronously versus asynchronously. So this week is our last opportunity to make sure everybody's ready to go with these documents, ready to push out plans that meet those minimum guidelines. As starting next week, those records will be auditable for compliance with attendance recording, something we're expecting will probably happen. So let me start out with a quick overview and some basic changes we've made. I'm going to go ahead and get us into our sample for Sue. Bryce will be or already has pushed this new document into your teacher folders and into our samples, so you'll be able to access them and start using them right away. So let's look at this sample that we have done for Sue. And I'm just going to walk you through it really quickly to show you what it looks like overall. Down here on the bottom row are actually tabs for navigating through the document, starting with the cover page. The cover page is going to have some basic information, so not only the student's name, the week of this plan, but also the instructional minutes per day that are based on Sue's grade and the number of days of school this week. That information will help us in terms of doing some of the calculations that are built into the worksheet to do for you. You also have your space that we've typically had to put your contact information of the IEP team members as well as office hours for that week. And then there's some information for parents, just some general guidelines and information about this document and how to navigate through it. I'm not going to go through it with you guys here because it's basically what I'm going to cover by walking you through the document together. So you'll see we've kind of set them up now as days each week. Each day has its own plan. And then you'll see our learning at home choice activities options, and you'll see the accountability log at the end. So I'm going to go to Monday just to show you what was in Sue's plan for Monday. These are the exact same ones as the ones that were in the previous samples, in case I haven't mentioned that already. So basically, you're going to see on the left-hand side of each day of the week, you're going to see what activities were live or synchronous activities. And on the right-hand side are any additional on my own time or asynchronous activities. There's a space if it's live to let the parent know what time. And there should be a link in here for how they're going to log into that virtual activity. And then we have our typical spaces we've had before, where you indicate how many minutes that activity is planned for, a place to indicate whether the student participated or engaged with the activity, and then a spot that if you did check that box yes, you're going to go ahead and write that number again. That's going to help with the calculations. So just a reminder that whatever time you've planned for that, if you have a checkbox yes, they participated, just go ahead and put that full minutes, even if they completed it in a shorter duration of time. You want to give them the full credit for the activity. Here's our spot to name the activity, and if you want to, you can still color code those. And then our space to describe whatever directions you want to give the parent in terms of if it's live, what they're going to do to facilitate with Sue, and if it's a asynchronous activity, whatever instructions they need to work with the materials that you've sent home for them. We also have our spots again for which providers were responsible for planning or implementing this activity so that they can be getting their credit for being a part of this plan. And then at the bottom of each one of these is a place to put your links to resources. So for Sue, on Monday, she has one live synchronous activity. She has a couple of asynchronous activities. And then in order for Sue to get up to her required 180 minutes a day, we have a place here for the parent or for you and your check-ins with them to record how much time they should be planning to pull activities from that learning at home choice options, and then a place to validate how many minutes they actually participated in those. And this is one area where they may not be able to complete all of them, so you might just get, put in here the number for how much time they were able to actually spend from that board. And then there's a link here as well to take them to that page directly. But you want to be using that option to really fill out your day so that for some of your students who can't handle as much virtual or really structured activity, you do have plenty of options in here for parents to do things that are more embedded into what they're going to be doing at home anyway. So every day of the week basically looks the same. And the Learning at Home Choice Activity page also looks the same. You're going to still use your descriptions in here of some really functional home-based things that families can incorporate into their normal routines and schedules, and a place to indicate that if they were to do that, any of these on any given day, about how much time to expect per day for those activities, as well as the providers. And then at the very end of the document is your accountability log. What I will say about the log is anytime you see, and this is true for all of the pages as well, anytime you see anything that's shaded or in blue, those are fields that are basically set or locked so that you can't accidentally go in and delete any of those titles or those pieces of content. Anytime you see yellow, those are things that are automatically calculating. You won't be entering anything into those yellow boxes. Those are going to be pulled from other places where you've entered that information on other pages. So all of these calculations are things that are happening automatically as you fill in each day of the week and as you go back and check boxes and give kids credit for engaging in those activities. Where you see white here are spaces where you may need to fill in some information. So if this was a student who was not able to do the full participation rate of 60%, which as you recall was our target, then you would check this box here. You would have that conversation with the parent. You would maybe go back and review that individualized distance learning plan that you reviewed with the parent at the beginning of this month or as we've been wrapping up this month. And you would talk about whatever challenges they were having and try to do a little bit of problem solving to figure out how can you adjust this plan that will help this parent to be able to support their student with more engagement. So it may be that you go back and tweak and put in more learning at home choice activities. It may be that you change times for some of these activities. It may be that they need more consultation or training It may be that they need an instructional assistant to be present with them virtually, to walk them through some of the activities. Whatever it is you can do to help to improve that engagement rate if it drops below 60%. There's a place on here to also, once you've completed a week and you print out that week's documents, to sign that, which is going to be a new expectation, is to sign these logs so they can become part of our attendance recording. And then here's the contact log at the bottom of this page. One thing that we did do a little bit differently is to try to make it really clear that when you're writing in a contact that's actually could be considered a service to the student or parent, that's going to auto fill that in green. And that's going to trigger you to make sure that you fill out any of the green sections so that this can be part of an actual contact log. So if it was a contact that was a service for a student, you're going to need to make sure you have start and end time, total minutes, what goal or skill it related to in the student's IEP, and whether the parent participated in, and then any notes that you might have about that contact. I do want to say a little bit about services and where to record them. You do have a couple of different options. They can go here, and as you see, these numbers add up. They will be tabulated into the total minutes for the student, but you can also put them directly into the live synchronous sections on the day of the week. If it's something you know ahead of time and that you can actually put in the plan that the parent can see, this is when, for example, this speech session is going to occur. If that's something the SLP is scheduling to do, she could just add it into the synchronous side of the page on the day that it's going to happen, let them know the time, give them the log, and how many minutes to plan for. For those things that I would recommend you use the contact log for, or maybe those less anticipated things, those things that might come up where the parent, for example, emailed the PT with a question about positioning the student in the adaptive chair that you've sent home. So you set up a time to have a contact with them and give them some feedback. And you're going to count that as service minutes. So you go ahead and complete the green sections so that it adds up in here. But that wasn't necessarily something you scheduled before you sent the plan home. So that, in a nutshell, is what this plan looks like for our sample student, Sue. And now I'm going to just open up the blank and show you a few things about navigating through it so that you can get a sense of that. Essentially, again, white squares are places that you're going to enter information. The week of box is one that you can use a drop-down menu and select whatever week it is you're planning for. Same thing for instructional minutes. You have 3 options depending on their grade level. And then you also have a space to say, is this a 5-day week? Or maybe it's a week that had fewer days in it. That's going to help with some of our calculations. You'll enter in your contact information, and then you'll move to your day of the week. Your templates will have, we decided to try to put as many of these options in as we would expect there to be at the maximum. So there's spaces to put 4 synchronous activities and spaces to put 6 asynchronous activities, including that learning at home choice field. If you know that's not a number that you're going to be shooting for your students and want to have fewer of these boxes, that's not something that you can change, just because we do have some of these things protected so that we can't accidentally delete things in this worksheet. If you want yours set up, so for example, if you're a program who pretty much knows at the maximum you're going to do maybe 2 or 3 live activities a day and maybe 3 or 4 asynchronous, check with Bryce and he can set yours up with those numbers of boxes so you don't have quite as many to deal with. That's something he can do for you. So as you're navigating in, I'm just going to add another sample in here so you can see how this happens. You're going to go ahead and enter how many minutes, because again, these are white boxes, so these are things you're filling in. When you come back to verify, you're going to check that box, and if you were able to verify it, you're going to put those minutes in. This is live, so I have a spot for what time of the day, as well as a place to put the link to log in, a place to put in my title, and if I want to, I can also shade that box to color code, and then a space to put in my description. I do want to just give you a little hint if you do any copying and pasting from another Google Doc. So if I go over to another lesson plan or document where I've kind of written in my descriptions of upcoming activities, or I want to copy and paste from a previous plan, sometimes if you do that, it won't keep some of the formatting. So I'm just going to show you what that might look like. So I might click on this box, do a copy and paste, and I've lost a little bit of my formatting. Don't panic. All you have to do is highlight that section or that area again, do format, merge all, and it'll spread them back out. If for some reason it doesn't keep the formatting to be putting the text at the top of the box, you can fix that. Or to wrap your text, you can also fix that and get it back to where you want it to be. So if that happens to you, you can easily fix those things. And then you're going to go ahead and put who your providers are. And what you're going to notice as you start putting in these numbers and doing these verifications, that's going to start feeding down here into the snapshot of the engagement for the day. So it's going to be telling me automatically how many of my minutes did I plan that were synchronous versus asynchronous. And then as you start checking boxes and putting in this validation of minutes, it will start also telling me how much of the synchronous activities the student participated in versus asynchronous, which will help us with our records for the state. Because I added a few things, I went above my 180 minutes for Sue, or for this particular sample, but typically this would be 180. And then, because that's carrying over from that front page, and then it would tell me how many I planned, how many they engaged, and it will do that automatic calculation for what percentage. That's going to give you an opportunity to, day by day, as you're going through with students, see if you're meeting your targets or if you're going to end up later in the week being below targets, so that hopefully you can do some intervention around that. If you've got a student who's participating very minimally on Monday and Tuesday, it will give you an opportunity to connect with the parent and to possibly do some things to help bring up those numbers later in the week. What this is going to be doing as you do that day by day is it's going to be feeding those numbers in here. So it's going to be feeding in how many synchronous activities the student engaged in, asynchronous, any additional services that come down here from this particular log, and giving you those totals and those percentages as you go along, which is going to be hopefully something that makes this accountability piece a lot easier for all of you. So I think that's pretty much all I really wanted to walk through with this with you. I do want to just remind you that if you need any assistance, you have the coaches that have been assigned to your program alike groups. So I think with ASD, that was Amy, who's facilitating that program alike group, as well as I think it's Dana and Ginger, who are also available to support you in those particular programs. For our SMD programs, I know we have Laura and Cynthia, our OI specialists, as well as Jennifer and Colleen. So please call on your coaches or the folks that are there to help you with the job alike or program alike groups. If you need help, they're more than willing to connect with you via phone and answer some questions, give you ideas around activities to plan, as well as how to work with these particular documents. You can also reach out to your coordinators or to me as well. We're more than happy to assist you as you go about this work. And we're just knowing you guys are doing a lot of really great planning and really putting a lot of effort into this challenging new situation we're in. Just know that we're here to support you.